Welcome back, denizens of the Omniverse. Last night, my brother and I went to go see Predator Badlands at the theater because this was a movie I most certainly wanted to go check out and see, especially after a couple of people who got to see it a little bit early was like, dude, this is like worthy of the big screen with the scope, the scale, the visuals, and they weren't kidding, man. As a longtime Predator fan, I honestly, out of like I've always been a Predator guy between the Predator and Alien franchises independently, but like the first Predator film is one of my favorite movies of all time. And for the longest time too, because of the complexities of this creature that's so different from a lot of other science fiction archetypes that we've seen, it's got so much personality, so much depth, so much lore. And finally, we have a film in the franchise where one of the Yautja, the Predator, is the main character of the movie. We start from their perspective and we end from their perspective. We don't have like a human vehicle in that then becomes like whatever, you know, it's like it's the other way around. And because like Hollywood always seems so afraid to do something like that. And I love what Dan Trachtenberg has been doing with this franchise. We reacted to Prey, we reacted to Killer of Killers, and I'm just happy to see what he's been doing with this. It is kind of taking things in its own direction, but it's doing things we haven't necessarily seen before, especially on film, and I gotta give it massive props for that. This movie, it takes place, it's following, I'm not gonna go into any deep spoilers or anything like that, but basically just the premise of the film. It starts off, we're following a young runt Yautja named Deck, who is trying to prove his worth, to try to prove that he deserves to be inducted into the clan and go off on his first hunt. It kicks off with a very strong emotional beat, and that's the fun thing that this movie does so well. You emotionally connect with this Yautja, and the expressiveness of the visuals, of the facial expressions, like you can see the performance carry through in this creature in a very human way. But that's kind of the point of, I mean, the franchise as a whole. Like, it's this entity that it challenges us, it pushes us to try to rise above, to be creative, because it thinks like us in a lot of ways, and sometimes the worst aspects of humanity comes through in this creature. This is a really interesting tale about that, and you just get sucked right into the narrative, and especially the emotional journey and arc that this creature has from beginning to end. They are layered, they have a lot of depth, they have so many endearing qualities, and when it comes down to it, they are badass. And the performance comes through very well between the practical effects and the CGI, because behind all of that is, I'm probably going to butcher this name, Demetrius Schuster-Koloamatangi, who is the physical standing of this creature. And again, it is a mix of CGI and practical effects, and it just sells it the entire way through the movie. There was never a point in the film where it was never really noticeably distracting when it was enhanced with CGI or whatever. And they just did a solid job bringing this creature to life and making it the focal point of the story. I'm not exactly sure what the year date is in this, but it's set way into the future as far as like the Predator Alien timelines, because as shown in the trailer, they do find along their journeys, along their travels, a weyland-yutani synth that has crash landed in the same vicinity or sector as this Yautja, and they're played by Elle Fanning, who is just a charm, a delight. And I love this almost like odd couple buddy cop thing they kind of got going on once they kind of set themselves on a similar path together. And the relationship that develops between these two on the course of their journey, I really liked watching unfold. Along the way, these two have to work together to survive this insanely dangerous terrain that they found themselves stuck in while the Predator was on its hunt. A lot of things don't necessarily go according to plan. It's a really interesting and wild journey, and the setting here is absolutely out of this world. From the creatures to the wildlife to the plant life to the landscape itself. This is like that's where this really kind of comes into where I'm talking about the visual aesthetic and why I was like, okay, I want to see this at the theater. With all of these sweeping landscapes and how larger than life a lot of this is, it really does lend itself very well to having that type of experience backing it and behind it. And I just loved it. It's like I don't know how to describe it, man. It's almost like a mix of Lord of the Rings, Pandora, and like Hellraiser is what I would describe this freaking planet as, man. It's thrilling seeing them go through this. I do think there's a couple times though throughout the film where there are a couple of very blatant conveniences that do kind of like allow for, I mean, these characters to kind of get out of certain scenarios, certain situations and whatnot throughout the movie that you just kind of have to brush off. And sometimes it can be a little, at least for me, I was like, okay, a little eye rolling at times. Similarly to that, I do think that like the movie's attempts to add some levity also kind of had a couple of the same moments throughout there sprinkled where I was just like, okay, that didn't quite work. But there are a lot of moments that are genuinely endearing, genuinely hilarious. And I'm not saying, they're not trying to make this a comedy. I don't want to paint that picture either, but it does try to give you a very broad experience as you're going through this, especially because this is a creature that shares a lot of human traits. And then you induct or introduce this character with Elle Fanning, Thea, into the mix as well. They're back and forth, and that dynamic, that push and pull between the two of them creates a lot of fun and sometimes hilarious dynamics between the two of them. But like I said, sometimes it got a little goofy, a little hokey. But again, it's few and far between when that happens. Like the things that didn't work or maybe had me like questioning what was going on in the movie, they're so fleeting when they happen. Because most of I'd say like 95% of the rest of the time throughout the movie, I'm locked in. And I was like dead tired going into this film, and it pulled me immediately in. It had me rejuvenated. It had me energized. The action, the gore, and here's the thing, I'm sure a lot of people are going to see the PG-13 rating on this and be like, what? Predator, PG-13? I honestly think that they didn't really go into this with that intention. It's just that's the rating they got because there is a lack of actual red blood and human characters. Because that's what the ratings board really looks at is, are the things that are being mutilated, are they human? And is the blood red? If those things are not really checked off, then you can kind of get away with pretty much anything in PG-13. And because of that, this movie is no less brutal. If you're worried about the violence being toned down or the action being toned down, that's not going to be an issue. I'm excited to see where they go from this because obviously we know there's a Prey 2 coming, and there's most certainly this is left open for, you know, maybe a continuation of this story or just to see what Dan does later down the line with this franchise, because while kind of doing its own thing with the lore that had been previously established, and I think some people kind of like have been rubbed the wrong way by some of the decisions that were made, at least in Killer of Killers. I can understand that. My brother's definitely one of those people as well, and I understand where he's coming from that. But I'm just so excited to see the Predator on the big screen in a way that doesn't make me just wince, like some of these previous sequels have done. But I think he's got a grasp of this. I think he's got a very strong vision. And I think this movie is just, again, it's doing something we haven't seen before in this franchise, rather than just be like, all right, we're following another set of human characters and there's this thing stalking them and it's hunting them, picking them off one at a time, or it's after our technology or our children or whatever. It's not doing any of that. And I appreciate it so much for that, because the Oucha, because of how complex and layered and nuanced they are, it's just so refreshing to have them as our point of view, as our focal point, as our vehicle through the narrative, and seeing it from their side of the story in a way that still allows us to connect in a lot of those very human ways. But it's no less, I don't know. It's hard to go into it without talking about the spoilers in the movie, but I found it extremely inviting and refreshing, and I'm excited to see what Dan does with the rest of this franchise, man. But if you've seen it, I want to know what you guys thought. So sound off the comments down below. We'll carry on the conversation after the video. Hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe if not already. Make sure to stick around for more reactions and reviews coming around the corner. And before we go, I want to shout out Angela Burr, Adriana Madeley, Little Chan Son, and Kiana Chanel. Thank you guys so much for coming save us here at the channel, helping sponsor and support the rescues that have been taken care of here at the office. You guys have been a tremendous help. And as always, I'd give a huge special thank you to all of our channel legends. Thank you guys so much for all of your additional support, because you guys and everybody over on Patreon allow us to do pretty much most of what we do on the channel at this point. So thank you guys so much for all of that support, and especially you guys here on YouTube, because without y'all, we wouldn't even be here. But that's just video, guys. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody.